Considering its status as the overlooked console of the 6th generation, there's naturally a host of underrated whippers that appeared on the GameCube that have either been resigned to history or just simply don't get the love that they really deserve. Nintendo, if you ever make a GameCube emulator for the Switch, or Switch 2 at this point, try not to forget about these underrated GameCube games. If you never played this first game, yoke's on you. Alright, stop what you're doing. We know why you're here. Joe, play the song. Okay, that's enough of that. Sonic Team has certainly made a lot of missteps with the Sonic franchise from the early 2000s onwards, but they were definitely onto something when they decided to move away from the blue blur and focus on a brand new IP for all of 5 minutes. That vidicam was Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, and while sales of the game were considered to be not good, that hasn't stopped Billy Hatcher from being a core part of many people's experiences when it comes to the GameCube. A platforming game with a novel gimmick, Billy Hatcher follows the titular hero as he travels across Morningland, trying to put an end to Dark Raven's reign of terror. You accomplish this by rolling up massive eggs which grow in size when you collect fruit, then hatching them to obtain their various goodies. It's about as weird as games from the early to mid-2000s get, but there's a magic here that's properly undeniable. With that soundtrack now buried into your brain for at least the rest of the year, there's never been a better time to revisit the franchise. Well, franchise of one game, isn't it? This is actually one of a few games to use the GameCube Game Boy Advance link cable, and you could use games such as Puyo Pop, Choo Choo Rocket and Knight's Time Attack on your GBA after you've completed certain objectives. And hey, the developers actually did revisit this next game. Monolith Soft definitely has a stellar reputation these days thanks to their incredible work on games like Project Cross Zone and the Xenoblade Chronicles series. However, back when they first started in the early 2000s, they were a complete unknown in the industry, which is how a stellar game like Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings and The Lost Ocean can slip under the radar of most players. Maybe the fact that it sounds like a long lost Rush EP has something to do with how this one failed to garner an audience, eh? Perhaps one of the most unique RPGs ever made, Baten Kaitos' gameplay and combat revolved around the Magnus card system, which you could argue is a precursor to the wave of deck-building RPGs that have launched in recent years. Slay the Spire, my beloved. The game contains over 1,000 Magnus cards, which offer new weapons, attacks, items, and can even be used to open up new quests and dialogue options when talking to NPCs. There's a lot to sink your teeth into here, and you can even do so on the Switch nowadays if you like, thanks to recent ports. However, this next guy remains dead. A dark horse prediction whenever a new Nintendo Direct is announced. Chibi Robo is possibly not the most underrated game on this list, given the level of success and sequels on fellow Nintendo platforms that followed this first game, and also this guy. However, when people think of the GameCube, they'll think of F-Zero GX, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Smashing Bros. Melee, and The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Compared to those games, Chibi Robo isn't quite on the same level, bless him. A puzzle platforming game with a cute twist, Chibi Robo follows the eponymous robot who's been recruited by the Sanderson family to help with their various chores. Unfortunately, Chibi Robo stands at 10 centimeters tall and has a short battery life, so you'll have to manage your energy in order to complete the various tasks required of you, collecting happy points as you go. It's about as silly as GameCube games get, but Chibi Robo is simply delightful as it plays about with perspective and whimsy beautifully. This next game is also a delight as long as you have your older brother to play it for you.
Little forward pass. Back to the center. Boom, pass to the center. Player number.
Look, it's not Pro Evolution Soccer 4, and let's be honest, nothing is, but Disney Sports Soccer is not bad at all. I mean, you can play as Mortimer Mouse in it. Come on! Back in the 2000s, there were plenty of arcade football games out there competing for attention. Does anyone remember Red Card and its box art? But unless your football game had FIFA or Pro Evo in the name, it was hard to get a look in. This is why Disney Sports Soccer could easily be considered one of the most underrated GameCube games ever made, which is a shame as it's also just incredibly fun. Not surprising given it was developed by Konami as they were approaching the peak of their powers with PES 4, 5 and 6. As you'd expect from the name, Disney Sports Soccer features many iconic Disney characters taken to the pitch to have a bit of a kickabout. While DSS shares the same developer as Pro Evolution Soccer, the gameplay itself is slightly different. Disney Sports Soccer is also surprisingly difficult, with AI that will punish your mistakes. At least some children could get their big sibling in to win the hard matches for them though. Speaking of big, would you like to play as a banana with mood swings? Here is the poster child for the GameCube, offering weird titles that you couldn't really find anywhere else. Though, interestingly, Doshin the Giant actually started life on the N64DD, the disc-based N64 peripheral that never saw a release outside of Japan because it sacked. It sacked. Okay, it sacked. Doshin was subsequently updated and re-released on the GameCube, but curiously still never found its way over to America. This is Europe's revenge for Barkley, Shut Up and Jam 2. A god simulator of sorts back when they used to be all the rage. Remember Black and White, for instance? Doshin the Giant saw players controlling a friendly yellow giant who could help the tribesmen of the island he visits by raising or lowering terrain or picking up people and objects. Doing so causes the humans to love Doshin, which lets him grow in size and become more powerful. However, you could also simply transform into Jashin, the evil alter ego who can torch entire towns with fireballs. Who needs to pick up Ladies of the Night in Grand Theft Auto when you can just become an evil banana, Godzilla kind of guy? Not us. Who is buying this next game? Also not us. As a kid, you probably imagined the scenario where your toys came to life, only for you to challenge your best mates to see whose toys are the strongest. That's basically the premise of Gotcha Force, and while it remains a relatively unknown GameCube title outside of the YouTube community, let's say, it's also pretty darn enjoyable. Sure, the combat is a bit basic, but there's a lot of fun to be had here in smashing that other kid's precious toys. They had it coming, probably. They touched my Beyblades. My Crazy Bones. Crazy Bones. Remember Crazy Bones? To be young. Gotcha Force features gacha toys, though this being a game from 2003, it doesn't force you to use your wallet to unlock more toys. Players build an army of toys, each with their own moves and abilities, and assemble the best force possible to complete fights and missions. Once one toy goes down in battle, the next toy in the force takes their place. Remember, in war, everyone is expendable, and war never changes. But change the views on our Fallout video by watching it, eh? Nice transition. Arena fighters that launched after Gotcha Force might have more to offer, but the first time fighting a massive dragon toy in Gotcha Force is a moment worth remembering. It's also worth remembering how bad the economy is before you buy this game physically. Jesus Christ, gotcha money. Yes, you're right, it has been at least 4 days since we last mentioned this game. For how simple the Hulk's abilities are, very few vidigams have managed to properly convey the power fantasy that is the big green guy punching things proper hard like. Radical had a previous go at it with the tie-in game to Ang Lee's Hulk movie, but on their second attempt, The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, the team knocked it out of the park, creating one of the best superhero games ever made. Apparently guys, the secret is to not focus on Bruce Banner stealth sections. Who knew? Who knew, Insomniac? Who could have known? The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction sees Banner trying to create a device that'll mend his shattered psyche, or I'll take 10 of those please, as a more dangerous and villainous Hulk alter ego threatens to come to the surface. Meanwhile, Emil Blonsky has been exposed to gamma rays and is slowly transforming into the Abomination, creating a melting pot of chaos with Hulk at the centre of it all. If that sounds too serious to you though, you can engage in plenty of fun mini-games as well, like batting some soldiers off the top of a skyscraper or playing a round of golf in the city. If you need more muscly boys, can we interest you in Those who watched Cartoon Network as a kid will likely have seen the adverts to watch Dragon Ball Z during the evenings, but you may also remember seeing Ultimate Muscle being advertised too and being very confused, and yep, that's kind of the point. A wrestling anime that's about as silly as the name implies, Ultimate Muscle naturally received a couple of tie-in video games, with Ultimate Muscle Legends vs. New Generation being an incredibly underrated GameCube game. I forgot to breathe. The game allows players to control characters from across different generations of the Ultimate Muscle series, with normal and tag matches along with special tag supers and so much more to discover. For fans of the Ultimate Muscle series, Legends vs. New Generation is a nigh-on unmissable banger. However, Ultimate Muscle being based on an anime might be the reason why it's underrated, so if that isn't enough to convince you, the fact it's developed by Aki should be. You know, the folks who created No Mercy for the N64? You don't know who we're talking about? Get out of my sight. Second sight. No, seriously, where are my glasses? Free Radical are obviously known the most for their work on the Time Splitters series, rest in peace, but in between the releases of Time Splitters 2 and Future Perfect, the British studio released Second Sight, a criminally underrated action-adventure / stealth hybrid that deserves some more love. That also applies to Psyops, another 6th generation telekinesis banger, but that sadly never came to GameCube. It's got cold on the soundtrack, guys. Cold. Sure, Second Sight is also available on Steam right now after THQ Nordic purchased the rights to the franchise, but there's something about the GameCube aesthetic with that weird claymation style that hits a bit harder. Second Sight sees players controlling a researcher who awakens in a mysterious medical facility where he possesses psychic powers. Naturally, that kind of power means there's some shadowy company looking to put the guy 6 feet under, so you have to use your new powers and your wiles to avoid detection and take out the enemy standing in your way. Remember, with great power comes ridiculous ragdoll physics. And with Spartan Total Warrior comes the next entry on this list. Smooth. The Total War series revels in the fantasy that comes with watching two massive armies do battle and sometimes not washing for a while, but often fails to capture what that experience would be like for one of the many foot soldiers within the carnage. Spartan Total Warrior was Creative Assembly's attempt to provide both the epic scale and the power fantasy of taking on massive armies as an all-conquering badass. The results were pretty damn fun indeed. A more fantastical game than Total War's usual historical depictions, Spartan Total Warrior put players in the sandals of an unnamed Spartan working to defeat an invading Roman army. The game features plenty of mythological characters and locations from Greek and Roman myth, while the hack and slash combat manages to raise a smile throughout the entire game due to the large, massive scale of it all. Altogether, Spartan Total Warrior is easily one of the most underrated GameCube games ever made. It's just a shame that it came out before 300, or we could have had Gerard Butler punting Luigi into a giant well. If it's good enough for basketball, it's good enough for Ancient Warfare as far as we're concerned. That was our video looking at some underrated GameCube games. If we missed any GameCube games, be sure to let us know down below. Also, let us know why you hate our faces down in the comments down below. It's time to go now. I'm losing the rhyme. Where am I? Who am I? How did I get here? Ah!